Okay, 13 fragrances that were not love at first sniffs. Sometimes I smell fragrances, I think, what were they thinking about? But sometimes I come back to them and I'm like, why did I diss this one before? So I've got 13 fragrances here, and that's exactly what happened with them. I'm going to tell you about them coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. Has this ever happened to you? Like, not everything is a love at first sniff, right? A lot of times fragrances do grow on me. And so I started compiling a list, and I always forget though. The thing is, I need to do the compiling like along the way, because sometimes I diss a fragrance and I come back to it and I'm like, oh yeah, this is really good. I wonder what I was thinking before. So at that time, I should, compile and write a note down so that I'll remember in the future, because I totally forget all the time. But it happens quite frequently, and I've put together a list of 13 fragrances here. Before I get started though, if this has ever happened to you, do let me know. Put a comment down below and let me know which fragrances it's happened to you with. And sometimes you never really like a fragrance. You always think it's not something you enjoy. It's the worst fragrance. But it has happened, it's happened like that, and also I've come around to it and really started enjoying it. But we're going to go ahead and get started with one fragrance from the house of Eccentric Molecules. So this is Eccentric Molecules Molecule 1 plus Guaiac Wood. So when this trio launched, it was ginger, black tea, and Guaiac wood. I really enjoyed the ginger, really great, zingy, spicy ginger with the Molecule 1 ISOE Super. And then also the black tea was great as well with that ISOE Super Cedar woodiness. And then of course this kind of smoky black tea coziness. This one I thought, it's too boring. Why do I need two woods together? I'm already bored of woody fragrances to begin with. Not that I'm bored anymore, because I've done 12 or so videos. I think it's 10 or so videos on the woody genre. If you haven't caught those videos, please go catch them. But this one grew on me so much, I started appreciating it. So Guaiac wood is a very interesting note. Sometimes it could be sweet and vanillic. Sometimes it can be smoky. And with this one, it's not sweet and vanillic. So it was even more boring when I first smelled it, but for some strange reason it grew on me so much I ended up really enjoying it and used quite a bit of it. In fact, I was layering this with another fragrance, and it was the base of another fragrance I was layering it with. It was Ingredients 2012, something like that, from Maison Crivelli. The two together worked so amazingly, but on its own, of course, it's just the ISOE Super plus the smoky touches of the woody, creamy Guaiac wood. Really, really great. I think I recommend it now. In fact, I'm one of the biggest fans of Molecule series fragrances. All the Molecules. Not as much as the Eccentrics. Those are a little more complete fragrances. But I love the Molecules. If you're kind of bored of Molecule 1 and you want the addition of another note to kind of play around with that kind of minimalistic, simplistic fragrance, try the series, because there's the Mandarin, there's Patchouli, there's Iris in the first series, and then we had the ginger, black tea, and the Guaiac wood. I'm hoping they will launch another trio, But yeah, great series. One of my favorite fragrance series of all time. Even though I really enjoy beast mode fragrances, the Molecule fragrances are some of my favorites. So going to the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, everybody knows this is not one of my love at first sniff fragrances. In fact, I despised this fragrance for the longest time. But when you're, going to a perfume shop constantly and you constantly smell it there, you end up getting addicted to the smell. In fact, it's not just going to a perfume shop. It's, smelling it off of people. So the fragrance launched in 2015. I started appreciating it early 2018, late 2017, because I started smelling it so much. And by the time 2019 rolled around, I started doing videos and featuring it because I was addicted to the smell. But for me, it was strange. It was a very industrial smelling fragrance, and I've got a few here with Ambroxan. You'll hear more about them. I think I just didn't appreciate the overuse of Ambroxan. I had experienced it in Molecule 2, but it was a light form. But with the Baccarat Rouge, I just despised it. It smelled like greasy industrial machines or something. That's what I associated it with. The thing I don't understand with this fragrance is sometimes people associate it with cotton candy, and I don't get that at all with this fragrance whatsoever. I don't understand how anybody could smell this and say it smells like cotton candy. But then noses are different, so we have to respect what people smell, because for me it was a greasy industrial machine. But now, man, I'm obsessed with it. In fact, I feature the red one, the X-ray version, constantly in videos. In fact, I've probably over featured it, and I've stopped kind of featuring it recently because I've spoken about it so much. But again, it's not a love at first sniff. I hated this stuff. A lot of you hate this fragrance. I think a lot of you hate Ambroxan. But Ambroxan, I don't think we can get away from it, because there's a lot of people that love it, and because it sells, because it has that sillage that everybody wants, they're going to keep featuring fragrances with, Ambroxan in it. But speaking of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, there's a second fragrance that I didn't like. This is Gentle Fluidity Silver. When I first smelled this fragrance, I actually did a video on the duo that launched together from samples on the channel after I had just gotten back from France and picked up 2 samples before they were even launched here in the States. I enjoyed the Gentle Fluidity Gold. The silver was so freaking sharp, so metallic and cold. I was like, this is nasty to my nose. It was just like a knife cutting through your nose and just extremely sharp. But you know what made me enjoy this one? Smelling it off of people, once again. What this fragrance does is it blends with the body chemistry of a person, and it softens it up, but it has a really sexy sillage. And I kept smelling it and smelling it and smelling it, and I'm like, I'm obsessed with the smell now. It is not one of your most unique creations, because I almost kind of associate it with a fragrance like Aventus. It's a freshie, but so sharp and metallic. Just, it acted like a knife hitting my nose, literally. But I love it. It's juniper berries, it's a lot of aromatics and spices, and then it has a bit of vanilla and a lot of musks in here. There's also amber woods, I believe. So most likely when they refer to amber woods, they're referring to Ambroxan once again. But really, really love this. Really, really enjoy this. But at first, it was just extremely sharp. Like when I smell it, it's overly sharp, but I love the smell because I always think about it mixed in with somebody's musk, like my own musk maybe, because I wear it quite a bit. Just it's kind of a dumb reach fragrance, although very expensive, but really, really love the way that smells. And juniper berries in general, if you like ice cold fragrances, look for fragrances that feature juniper berries, because this is what it does in fragrances. And speaking of ice-cold fragrances, I've got one from the house of NISHANE. This is it right here, Ege. My bottle actually cracked and the side fell out. So I've got tape on it because if it falls and I put my finger on it, it'll cut it. So this one to me, when I first started talking about it, it was extremely marine. But for some reason, the cucumber was acting marine-like. There's a cucumbery touch here, and I feel like I'm getting it from the ozonic notes, which are potentially violet leaves. But I also feel like cucumbers create this kind of watery ozonic touch in fragrances, because I have people smell this when they come in for a sniff session. They instantly say cucumbers, which it acts like cucumbers. So for some strange reason, I didn't care for this one at all. But a year or two later, I really started appreciating it. To me, it's kind of like a salad, a fresh cucumber salad minus the yogurt, but it's cucumber and mint because there's mint in here as well. It's a very invigorating fragrance, ice cold but not sharp like the Gentle Fluidity Silver. This is more almost marine-like a sea breeze. But there was something in here that turned me off of it. But I kept coming back to it, and I think it's a great scent. Really, really nicely done. Very ice cold once again. Very ozonic. And it does have a bit of a sea breeze vibe, but it's very vegetable-y, kind of like a salad. It reminds me of a salad, basically. If you like that sort of thing, check out Ege from the house of NISHANE. What are your thoughts on that fragrance? Are you a fan? Now, moving on to the house of DIOR, GRIS DIOR. So GRIS DIOR was not a love at first sniff. In fact, I hated it. It used to be called Gris Montagne, and I feel like it was much better when it was Gris Montagne, but still, it was not something I appreciated. For some strange reason, it acted strange to me, and I kept not coming back to it. But I feel like I came around to it because I started appreciating whatever rose they had in this, and the fact that it says they have Oakmoss. I don't think they have a true form of Oakmoss, and the fact that it has Patchouli, I have grown to enjoy it. But when I first started experiencing and playing around with the Dior Privé collection, my go-tos were Mitza vetiver, and leather oud. Those are the ones that I always spoke about on the channel, on the previous channel. But obviously those got shelved and moved to a, you know, boutique exclusive in France and other cities or states or countries. Not states, countries mostly. And so I kind of forgot about it and I moved on to other fragrances. And then I somehow circled back to this. It is a great scent. And I feel like it's a very popular scent for the Dior house. In fact, it's part of the new, I guess, almost extracts form of fragrances that are launching from the Dior fragrances. There's 5 of them. One of them is this. And then they have Ombre Nuit. They have Oud Ispahan. They have Lucky. And they have Rouge Trafalgar. Those 5 are getting the more concentrated, you know, take on these fragrances. So I can't wait to see what they're going to do. I really love this fragrance now. I think it's very popular. They had a whole ad campaign a year or so ago. So most likely there's fans of it. And, you know, they have money to spend on it to even make more money. But if you're a fan of these fragrances I spoke about so far, let me know. Put a comment down below so we'll find out as well. So if you haven't already heard, one of my least favorite styles of fragrances are marine fragrances. Obviously, those are the ones that I'm challenged with the most. I think it's a certain thing that the nose does or sense of smell does, and certain things you don't like. I'm sure there's some styles or, you know, some smells you don't like in the world. And for me, the worst is, you know, marine notes, especially with the use of cologne, because it gives you this kind of like rotten egg-like sulfuric smell. Nasty. Which this next fragrance, even though I don't get it much now, was all about when I first started smelling it. It's Dior La Colle Noire. So when I first started playing around with this fragrance, I was like, why is there this kind of strange sulfur marine fishy thing in the background? The fragrance is very watery, like there's a watery effect, like dew, like fresh water rains on roses kind of an effect in here. And I feel like maybe François Dumarche used some cologne to give that effect, because for me it had that. It had like a marine fishy vibe, not super strong, but it was there in the background, and it turned me off of the fragrance. It really did. But later on I kept coming back to it and I started enjoying this fragrance because it's a tribute, paying tribute to the rose. It's a beautiful rose fragrance and it's nicely done. It's very fresh and it is very watery. You can totally experience the dew, like the water drips on the rose when you wear this one. And I think François Dumarche has done a great job. This is not part of the new fragrances that they're launching, the stronger fragrances that they're launching from Dior. But I could see that happening with this as well. It's just a gorgeous rose. It's if you like rose and nothing but rose, try this. But it has fruity touches. It has green touches. Some, you know, woods under there as well. And then, of course, you do have that kind of watery marine sea breeze thing happening in here as well. But I don't pick it up as much as I used to. I don't know if my nose has come adjusted to cologne and marine notes and seaweed and sea breeze and all this stuff. It's not as strong on me as it was before. So I think that's why I appreciate this fragrance more now. Let me know if you guys have had the same kind of reaction with this or any of the fragrances I've spoken about so far. Let's move on to Louis Vuitton with Imagination. So this is almost like the experience of Gentle Fluidity Silver, but not sharpness. Just, I felt like, for me, I felt like it was one of the most boring fragrances that Louis Vuitton released. But I started smelling it on people, then I started enjoying the smell. Similar idea, but not similar fragrance smells. This is more cozy, it's tea, it's fresh, it's invigorating. Didn't smell bad. I just felt it was boring. Whereas the Gentle Fluidity Silver, I felt was too sharp. Extremely sharp. But similar experience. I smelled it on people and I started like, what the heck? That smells amazing. It is so amazing on people. So I enjoy this one. Right out of the bottle, it doesn't smell as good. But on skin, man, that thing comes alive so much. It's quite pricey, but I think it smells great. If you can afford it, get it. It's Ambroxan, black tea, neroli, cedar, bergamot, ginger, cinnamon. And even though I consider it more like a dumb reach fragrance, I think once it mixes with your own chemistry, you'll get compliments for sure. I was complimenting other people what they're wearing, and they ended up saying it's Imagination. So again, similar experience to Gentle Fluidity Silver, not reaction. just, I felt like this was just a really boring fragrance, extremely boring, like nothing to write home about. In fact, I mentioned it in my video, but now I'm obsessed with the smell. So it grows on, fragrances do grow on you. So going back to the marine thing once again, going to the house of Basil, it's Wid. I hated this fragrance before. It smelled of fish to me. Melons have a marine aquatic thing happening in fragrances, and this is a melon bomb. But once again, it grew on me. I don't hate it now. In fact, I like it. I like its fruitiness and muskiness. It's very strange what the nose does to people. But if you've had this reaction, because, I mean, I received tons of compliments, right? Like, a lot of them are so reactionary to a certain fragrance. So dramatic. Like, I'm only wondering what this person thought of that fragrance after they came back to it like a year later, 2 years later. What do they think? Do they still act like that with that fragrance? Sometimes your nose needs adjusting to fragrances. You just can't love everything at once. Sometimes it's the smell is just something that you've never smelled before. And you can't process it or something. I don't know. For me, it's always the marine notes and extremely animalic fragrances. Those can be really tough. Or strange fragrances, because Baccarat Rouge I felt like was very industrial smelling. But here with Wid, it was extremely marine, and it just bothered me extremely, a lot. But now it's a fun fragrance. It's a fun and fruity fragrance. It's a really long-lasting fragrance. And it's also created by Chris Maurice of Xerjoff fame, so he does good fragrances. But I had a major challenging time with this one. In fact, in my video, you can kind of tell I said I didn't care for it as much. It's not for me. But it's grown on me. So this is Basil Wid. Let me know if you're a fan of that. So here we go with two fragrances for the House of Matier Premier. We're going to start off with Crystal Saffron first. And speaking of that industrial smell, this to me smelled extremely industrial and extremely sharp and metallic. I had a very similar experience with the two Maison Francis KURKDJIAN fragrances rolled into one here. So the Ambroxan that's in there smelled like industrial. The saffron that was in here, it's called Crystal Saffron, felt like metal, but more like glass, sharp. So similar to the Gentle Fluidity Silver. So at first I was like I reacted really negatively to this. I was like, I don't like this fragrance. I like a lot of their other fragrances. But what the hell is this? Sure, I got the fabric kind of smell of the leathery saffron in here. But it was so sharp, so sharp. But once again, I come around to it because you keep smelling it and you get adjusted to it. And it smells sexy now. It really does. So the saffron has that kind of fabric leather-like smell, which I really love. It's in here. And it doesn't come off as sharp as it used to. It's great. You'll be reminded of something like Baccarat Rouge, but with that kind of saffron leather thing happening there. That's what Crystal Saffron's all about. But also, vanilla powder. I felt like this was a strange vanilla. So strange. But once again, it's nice now. I quite like this one. It's crazy. And I'm a vanilla lover. I was looking forward to this. It's an unusual vanilla for sure. It's not your conventional syrupy, sweet and gooey gourmand vanilla. It's so different. My nose adjusted to it and I really love it. And I get a lot more coconut now. It's not milky. It's more powdery because there's coconut powder in this. Behind the scenes, there's also white musks. So it's quite musky. But it's almost like it's tropical, but not quite. Maybe you're cooking something with vanilla and you're adding something that might have traces of something coconutty in there. But it's more like to just give it a unique twist to the recipe you're making. Because it doesn't fully go tropical, but there is a coconutty vibe there. It's good. This is really good. So vanilla powder. Let me know if you're a fan of it. So here's another fragrance that I wasn't really excited about, but it has grown on me quite a bit. This is Comme des Garçons Zero. This one's created by Fanny Ball. And I thought this is one of the most boring fragrances this brand has released. Zero. What the heck were they thinking about? I also thought varnish and rose oxide and synthetic rose, and this is what really did it for me. These two notes is what made this fragrance more exciting. In the end, it's cedarwood, bergamot, musk, Haitian vetiver, but for me, it's all about the synthetic rose oxide that's in here, and the varnish accord. It smells super unique, a little weird, but in a good way, but very addicting. You smell it and you want more of it. It doesn't do it justice when you smell it out of the the bottle. On skin, it gets a bit weird, but very fresh and unique. Like it's just, the varnish accord is what's doing that unique weirdness. And then it's that rose oxide, synthetic rose, that gives it that very bright experience against kind of mostly like woods and musk and bergamot. Very unique fragrance. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say it's extremely unique, because at first I thought it was boring. But later I kept coming back to it. I felt like it was unique. But I wouldn't call this one of the most unique fragrances that Comme des Garçons has, you know, launched, because they have others that are weirdly unique. This is a bit more conventional. Maybe that's why I thought it was boring, because it felt a little bit too mass. But it's the synthetic rose oxide, and varnish accord that really does it for me here with 0. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. So this next one I actually got to sample at Essence, and I thought, this is not a good fragrance. This is from the House of Rosendo Matu. It's number 8. I felt like it was a fruit bomb, but fresh fruits, warm spices combo didn't work. But I shouldn't judge a book by its cover, because it's an addicting smell now. I don't know, for some strange reason, first reaction of it was strange, like really strange. And I just was like, what were they thinking of mixing these warm, spicy notes and warm notes with the freshness of pineapple and apple and pear and citruses? But in the end, it's very addicting, and you get addicted to it, and it smells really, really great, by the way. If you haven't tried it, it's also long lasting, and it reminds me of some fruity cooking that I've done with fruits. So, but it just was like weird fragrance at first. What were they thinking with this fragrance? I was looking forward to something as good as 5, and I don't think this is as good as number 5, but it is really good. If you haven't tried it, do try number 8 from Rosendo Matu. I think you're going to like it. Just give it a chance if you don't like it. Because, you know, for me, it was a strange reaction at first, but really grows on you. And I'm going to end the list with this fragrance, Jeroboam's Gozo. So I did a review of this one. I thought it was good, but then later I started hating it. It reminds me of a head shop selling candies with incense and nag champa. That's what it reminds me of. But there's the color orange comes to mind, and I feel like the orange is perfectly captured here with this fragrance. So it's the right color, because that's what I smell. I smell orange hard candies with a lot of nag champa next to it. And it's a lot of patchouli, so I should like this one. And it eventually I've grown to enjoy it quite a bit. In fact, I travel with one now because it's a great, I don't want to say dumb reach, because it's a bit more, not challenging, but it's a fragrance that you have to put a thought to it before wearing it. But I like having it because it's an easier to wear, even though I thought at first it was quite strange with the whole nag champa, hard candy lozenge kind of an experience. But again, fragrances do that. Sometimes you have to get used to it. It's a strange smell. I kept thinking of, a head shop all the time when I was smelling this one, because that was what it reminded me of. And I was like, why do I want to wear that? But now I don't care, because it smells good. It smells really, really great. The patchouli is really strong here, but I certainly get the hard candy, kind of orange lozenge, kind of a mix with nag champa. Do you guys get that as well with Gozo? Let me know. Put a comment down below. And that's all I have for you guys today. 13 fragrances that were not love at first sniff for me. Let me know if some of the fragrances that were not love at first sniff for you. Please put a comment down so I can find out. And of course, let me know if this has happened with these fragrances with you as well. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.